Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be following up with our previous video on the Shadow Priest tree. So if you haven't seen me already talk about the Priest talent tree, I also talked about how you can try and get into beta and some other things in that first video. So if you want to see my thoughts on that, then there should be a link in the description down below. Go ahead and click that, or just go to my channel and find it. But for now, we're going to take a look at the Shadow Priest tree. And in this video, I'm just going to give my initial thoughts. I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to go through and like select a bunch of talents and talk about what that might be good at and then go through again or anything. I'm just going to read all the spells and talk about what they might be good for. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, stick around. Otherwise, maybe check my channel for different Shadow Priest videos that are more to your liking. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. First off, you're forced... Oh wait, no you're not. Haha. So you're given 25 points and you're not forced into Devouring Plague. But you are, because you have to put points in if you want to save a tree. So we've got Devouring Plague, which is just the same as it is on live right now. And then we've got three choices. So they've swapped. Vampiric Touch used to be here. It's moved. Devouring Plague used to be down here. It's moved up to the top now. And Mind Flay has moved. And if I remember correctly, yeah, Mind Flay is a baseline priest spell. So you're given that for free. And so we've got Silence, Shadowy Apparitions, and or Mind Seer. And Mind Seer is different now, right? Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's talk about this a little. Silence is one of the worst. It's like the second worst interrupt in the entire game. And maybe even the worst, because the only one that's longer than it would be a Boomkin's Silence. What's it called? Solar Beam? I don't even remember what it's called. A Moonkin's Silence, and theirs is only worse because it's 15 seconds longer, but it's an AoE silence, so it's arguably better. In fact, not arguably, almost guaranteed better in every case. So Silence might even just be the worst interrupt in the game, but having an interrupt can be really nice. So maybe we take this, and it depends on what it unlocks down here, and in fact, it's going to take, yeah, it's going to give you Misery or Dark Void, so you're almost certainly going to take Silence. You're probably going to take all three of these. Then we've got Shadowy Apparitions. When you use Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, or Void Bolt, you make an apparition. If you critically strike, you get 2. So it's just like how they work on live currently. Then we've got Mind Seer. And Mind Seer, corrosive shadow energy radiates from the target, dealing this much damage over this much time to all enemies. All enemies. So this sounds like it's not target capped, which is nice, within 10 yards of the target. Costs 25 insanity every tick, basically, while channeled. So that's interesting. So you could, if you've got a full bar of insanity, so you've got 100 insanity, you press this button, it will only tick 4 times, and it will cost all of your insanity to do that. That's a pretty big damage number. Let's compare it. Yeah, it's more than Mind Blast. So that could be, this will be really interesting to play around. So Mind Seer right now, in regular Shadowlands, Mind Seer, basically you only press it so that you can press Searing Nightmare, and you also press it so that you can, like if you've got that huge Arden Wield pull in the other side, you press Mind Seer, it gives you 1 insanity for every target it hits. So you're getting like ticks of 30, 25 insanity, like tons and tons of insanity. So that's one of the other reasons you press Mind Seer currently, but this is going to change things entirely because it's a spender now. So that's interesting. And ooh, so this is one thing that Blizzard has listened to some feedback about. For a long time, people have been saying our only spender is Devouring Plague. We have no way to spend our insanity. Well, so we have Searing Nightmare, but Searing Nightmare, most people, okay, maybe not most people. Let me rephrase. There has been a huge campaign against Searing Nightmare. The playstyle for Searing Nightmare really is not very fun for a lot of people. So for a lot of people, the only good insanity spender we've had has been Devouring Plague, and so we've really wanted an AoE insanity spender that was like good and felt good to play and stuff like that. I don't think Mind Seer answers that question very well, because we were already pressing Mind Seer to do our AoE insanity spender. So it was basically an AoE insanity spender already. It sucks because you have to sit there and channel. That's probably the worst part about this. the fact that you can't move at all feels really, really bad. Also, what happens if you press Mind Seer and then you instantly move? Do you lose 25 insanity, or does it wait for the first tick? Okay, anyway, so those are the first three. And I'll also mention, Mind Seer is very optional right here. It only links to dispersion, and you can get dispersion just by getting shadowy apparitions. And in pretty much every scenario, you're going to have shadowy apparitions. So Mind Seer is like crazy. You don't have to take this at all, because you can just go shadowy apparitions, dispersion. Maybe you don't need Mind Seer for anything, and then you've skipped it entirely and saved a point. The same is not true over here for silence. Silence is not nearly as optional, but Mind Seer you can completely avoid if you want to. I do like that about this tree. So then next we've got dispersion. This is exactly how it is on live, it looks like. Yeah, I think so. Then we've got auspicious spirits, which is just like the talent on live. So increased 15% increased damage, generate 2 insanity. All of your shadowy apparitions, I should say, do that. Tormented spirits, your shadow word pain damage. Ooh, wait, what? That's super interesting. I really like this. So in BFA, for anyone who is a Shadowlands baby, back in BFA, your shadowy apparitions would spawn when not Vampiric Touch, when your shadow word pain would crit, and then they changed it going into the Shadowlands to where your Vampiric Touch was the dot that kind of controlled where your shadowy apparitions went. But now this is really interesting because it's kind of a throwback to that, where your shadow word pain damage, and it's not even crits, it's just your shadow word pain damage. That's very interesting. Has a 5% chance to create a shadowy version of yourself that floats towards all targets affected by your Vampiric Touch. So I'm guessing, this doesn't say a 5% chance to generate a shadowy apparition. It just says a shadowy version of yourself. I'm guessing that just means it's one of your flying ghost dudes, but it might be like a special extra purple ghost dude, because they don't say that it's a shadowy apparition. Critical strikes increase the chance to 10%, so it is still a little tied with your crits. This is very interesting. I like this a lot. Although, it's interesting that it's stuck with auspicious spirits, because typically you would play auspicious spirits, you would play everything that buffs your shadowy apparitions, and then you'd play this so that you can get more of them. But right here, it's just making you choose. Do you want more of them, or do you want them to do more each? That's an interesting talent. I really like this choice. It's going to feel bad because you're going to have to choose one and not get the other, but it's cool that it's like a hard decision purely on paper without looking at any numbers. Okay, then we've got Misery. Man, these talent trees are a little annoying to try and click on, but maybe I'm just bad at the game. Vampiric Touch also applies Shadow Word Pain to the target. Shadow Word Pain lasts an additional 5 seconds, so that's interesting. And then we've got Dark Void. Unleashes an explosion of dark energy around your target, dealing 841 shadow damage and applying Shadow Word Pain to your target and 840 nearby enemies. Okay, so I don't know. So the tooltip for this says that it's like 60-something% of your ability power. That's where it's getting that 840 number. 841, I should say, up at the top. It's like 60-something% of my ability power. And the tooltip to give you the blank nearby enemies, that is just that first number minus 1. So it says 840 right now. That is like the weirdest arbitrary limit. Why would they make it like that? I think it's almost certainly bugged, and this is like the first day of beta, so it's likely there's going to be tons of bugs. But yeah, so don't expect that to be what it's going to be. Why would they let you put Shadow Word Pain on 840 things, but not 841? You know, it's like, what a weird arbitrary limit for no reason. Okay, next we've got Psychic Horror and Last Word. I don't like this, but they're also crazy optional, just like Dispersion was. You can just cut right around them. Psychic Horror is something that we have. I take Psychic Horror just because it's probably the one that's the easiest to play around, that makes any sense, that gives you any utility that you don't already have on live. But on Dragonflight, you have to take silence to get it, which means that you're going to already have silence, so last word is not great. And last word reducing the cooldown by 15 seconds makes it still like the second longest silence in the game. Second longest cooldown kick in the game, I should say, because it just puts it down to 30, which is still way worse than like everybody else. Except Boomkins, but we hate Boomkins. Not actually, I love Boomkins. Or do I? Anyway, so then we've got Shadow Orbs, and NYI, which means not yet implemented, coming soon. So I believe Shadow Orbs... So Shadow Orbs are before my time. I played in Legion, I played in BFA, I played in Shadowlands, and I'm going to play in Dragonflight, but Shadow Orbs weren't around in Legion. I believe they were around in Mists of Pandaria? Or maybe Warlords of Draenor, one of those two. But basically, if I remember correctly, like I said, I haven't played with these, but if I remember correctly, Shadow Orbs were how we used to generate resources. So you would, like, instead of having 50 insanity to spend for a Devouring Plague, you would grab, like, however many Shadow Orbs and use those to cast Devouring Plague. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how this is going to work, and I don't know how it really worked in the past, but this could be interesting. What's really interesting to me is that it's so far on this left side, which means that it's going to kind of, like, force you into a certain play style. Okay, then we've got a choice between... Ooh, this is interesting. A choice between Hallucinations, which is a passive that we already have on live that we're losing. This feels kind of bad. Your successful Dispel Magic, Mass Dispel, Purify Disease, Vampiric Embrace. That's interesting. And Power Word Shield casts generate 6 insanity during combat. So right now on live, when you're in a raid and you press Power Word Shield so you can run to your soak faster, you get 6 insanity. Is it 6 or is it 9? But you get a little chunk of insanity already. They're getting rid of that and making it a talent. Bad move. I don't like that. I wish it was still just a passive. Then we've got Tithe Evasion. Shadow Word Death deals 75% less damage to the caster. Oh boy. Yeah, this is This is going to be big, I think. This is going to make you way tankier in your execute, especially because over here, if you watched my last video, you'll know, you can press Shadow Word Death twice when you're in execute. You can press it back to back. Boom, it didn't kill the guy. You get hit. Boom, you hit him again. And you can take 75% less damage for both of those. Yeah, I don't know about this one. This is a hard choice, dang. The hallucinations, the amount of insanity you generate from hallucinations in regular Shadowlands raids is really, really low right now anyway. So it's probably not a huge insanity loss. And this is pretty beneficial, although, yeah, I'd probably take this most of the time. Hard to know, though. We'll have to see. Then we got Mind Spike, which is a new spell, a new shadow spell. Maybe not a new shadow spell in all of World of Warcraft history, but new to me. Blasts the target for 990 Shadow Frost damage. Okay, let me nerd a little bit here. Shadow Frost damage. This is the first time I've ever seen a Shadow Priest be able to do anything other than shadow damage. So if you've ever been silenced in PvP, you'll know the only damage we ever do is shadow damage. This is Shadow Frost damage, which is different. And I'll also mention, like I said before, this is the first day of beta, so this could change to just shadow damage. But it's really interesting to me, and this has big implications for PvP, really interesting to me that we would get a spell that does damage that's not pure shadow damage. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever seen this. Blasts the target for 990 Shadow Frost damage, but extinguishes your shadow damage overtime effects. Garbage. Increases the critical strike chance of your next Mind Blast by 30%, stacking up to 3 times. What? This is a weird spell. This is such a weird spell. So you press this once, it gets rid of your Devouring Plague, your Vampiric Touch, and your Shadow Word Pain. Press it again. It does the same thing if you just... So I imagine you would just press this 3 times back to back to back, boom, 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 and then cast a Mind Blast. But if that's not how you're doing it, You would press this, maybe redot, press some other stuff, press it again. It would get rid of your dots again. You'd do other stuff, press it again, lose your dots again. And then at that point, you'd press a Mind Blast, and your Mind Blast would have a 90% chance to crit. I don't know about this one. This one feels really weird. It's interesting, but it is very strange to me. Why does it extinguish your damage over time effects? That's like our entire mastery. Our whole mastery is based on our shadow over time effects. So if they're going to give you this spell that gets rid of them, especially because isn't there a spell down here? There's a spell down here somewhere. Oh, maybe it's in here? No. Oh man, I wish I could have found it quicker. There's a spell down here somewhere, sorry, that when you Mind Spike... Oh, maybe it's right here? Yeah. Your Mind Blast and Mind Spike casts reduce the cooldown of Mind Games by 1 second. So this is like, please, cast Mind Spike more. But then your mastery is like, never cast Mind Spike. Very interesting. It generates 6 insanity. Oh boy. This could be so crazy. Shadow Priest is like so different now. We've got Vampiric Insight. Vampiric Touch periodic damage has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Mind Blast and cast it to be instant. And Mind Blast gains an additional charge. So you're almost guaranteed going to take this so that you can have 2 Mind Blast charges. And then you just randomly get that not Dissonant Echoes, the other one. I don't remember what it's called. You get the Conduit proc that gives you the free Mind Blast. Then we've got Intangibility or Mental Fortitude. Dispersion heal. So Intangibility. Dispersion. This is just the talent that we already have on live. Dispersion heals you for an additional 25% of your max health over its duration, and its cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. So Dispersion's cooldown baseline is 2 minutes. This would put it at 1.5 minutes. And Dispersion baseline in Dragonflight does not heal you. But with Intangibility, it'll heal you for 25% of your max health. Right? It doesn't heal you? Oh, no, it does heal you, baseline. Oh, interesting. So Dispersion in Dragonflight will heal you for 25% of your max health. That's very interesting. And if you have Intangibility, it'll heal you for 25% more. Put you at 50% of your max health. Okay? Then we've got Mental Fortitude. Healing from Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague while you're at maximum health will shield you for the same amount. Shield cannot exceed this small amount of damage absorbed. What's our health bars at right now? 25,000, okay. And I'm level 60. Okay, so then this one is interesting, although probably not very helpful, because when are you ever at 100% health for a long period of time for this to have a lot of value? Not really ever if you're doing hard stuff. So probably not crazy good. Okay, next we've got Dark Evangelism. Your Mind Flay and Mind Sear damage increase the damage of your periodic shadow effects by 1%, stacking up to 5 times. And it's 2 ranks here, so I'm guessing it'll be... Let's just check, actually. Oh, do we need more points? We need to spend 3 more talent points before we can get it. Okay. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. If we get rank 1... Okay, so it goes from 1% to 2% at rank 2. So you can go up to 5% or you can go up to 10%. That's interesting. Our periodic shadow effects are crazy weak right now on Shadowlands. Our dots don't do very much damage. Let's look, actually. Yeah, so they're not going to be huge in Dragonflight, it looks like, either. At least right now. So this is not massive, but it would be nice. It's just like a nice little passive, especially considering the stuff that it can unlock. So then next we've got Mental Decay. The duration of your Shadow Word Pain of Vampiric Touch is increased by 1 second. Oh, this is very interesting. Duration of your Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch is increased by 1 second when enemies suffer Mind Flay or Mind Sear damage. So this is like back in the old Shadow Priest when you would put dots on something and you would hit anything nearby with a Void Bolt. It would extend the duration of your your dots on everything. I think that still is how Void Bolt works. But this can happen from Mind Flay or any Mind Seer damage. So this could be really big implications for Mythic Plus. We could be looking at a future where we play Misery and we put Vampiric Touch on everything and we get our shadowy ghosts flowing, and then we start hitting things with with Mind Seer to spend our insanity, and it extends all our dots. Dude, old Shadow Priest from BFA is looking pretty viable, at least from these talents. Okay, I'll try to speed up because we're running out of time. Surge of Darkness. Your Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague damage have a chance to cause your next Mind Spike to not consume your damage over time effects. Okay, that's like crazy huge. Be instant and deal 50% additional damage. Stacks up to 3 times. So I'm guessing the stacks are more damage. Because you can't make it more instant. And you can't make it consume more. You can't make it more not consume. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to go from 50% damage to 100 to 150. Interesting. Getting Mind Spikes that don't extinguish your damage over time effects. If you're going to take Mind Spike, you're certainly going to take Surge of Darkness. Like, not a chance you would not take this. 0% chance you would not take this. Although, oh man, it doesn't make all of your Mind Spikes do it though. Yikes. Okay, Mind Melt. Mind Spike reduces cast time of your next Mind Blast by 50%, stacking up to 2 times. Why are there so many Mind Spike talents that make it so that you want to play it more when it gets rid of all your dots? I don't like that. So this gives you an instant cast Mind Blast if you have 2 stacks. Damnation, this one's dope. Just puts all your dots on the target like currently. Puppet Master, not yet implemented, coming soon. I'm guessing this is going to have something to do with mind control, but I have no idea. Harnessed Shadows, not yet implemented. Maybe this is going to have to do with your shadowy apparitions, which would be dope. I love that they're adding so many shadowy apparition things. Malediction reduces the cooldown of Damnation by 15 seconds, which would put it at 30 seconds. Psychic Link, Mind Blast and Mind Spike deal 15% of their damage to all other targets afflicted by your Vampiric Touch within 40 yards. Man, it's really looking like we're going to play Misery a lot. Then we've got Void Torrent, everybody's favorite spell. 60 Insanity, still huge. Shadow Crash. Okay, they've changed this, and this is very interesting. Hurl a bolt of slow-moving shadow energy at the destination, dealing a bunch of shadow damage to all targets within 8 yards, and applying Vampiric Touch to 4 of them. So if you've got 5 targets, it'll deal that 2,366 damage to all 5, and it will leave Vampiric Touch on 4 of them. And I've heard that when you have Misery talented, it will also leave a Shadow Word Pain on them. So this could be crazy interesting. Imagine if you're... I don't know. Yeah, you would probably play... Okay, so if you play Dark Void and Shadow Crash, you could put 4 Vampiric Touches up and infinity Shadow Word Pains with Dark Void, or you could play Misery and Shadow Crash, and you could put 4 Vampiric Touches and 4 Shadow Word Pains with 1 spell. Whereas with the Dark Void, it would have been 2 spells. You put 4 Vampiric Touches up, and then on your second spell, you put Infinity, because of this, or 840, I guess, Shadow Word Pains, because it's however many targets you can hit, right? This is going to be an interesting dilemma. Do you take Misery with Shadow Crash, or do you take Dark Void with Shadow Crash? I guess it really depends on how long stuff is going to live. If stuff is going to instantly die, then you don't care about the Vampiric Touches that you get from Shadow Crash. You would just use this to do big damage, and then you'd press Dark Void and do that 841 shadow damage. And Dark Void, I forgot to mention, generates 20 Insanity, which is big, especially because Mind Seer costs 25 every time it ticks. So interesting. Okay, then we've got Dark Ascension, consumes Dark Evangelism, which was this. Okay. Consumes Dark Evangelism to increase the damage of your non-periodic shadow spells by 4% per stack consumed. And you can stack up to 5 times, so it can go up to 20% more shadow damage from your non-periodic shadow spells, which is things like Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast. Do we have any more? Mind Games? Yeah, I guess Mind Games. Man, that is interesting. Okay. And it lasts 18 seconds, so this could be... Okay, I won't spoil things. This could be interesting. This is one of our big cooldowns. This is a 2-minute cooldown, so it's going to give you a ton of damage. Unfurling Darkness, way over here on the right side, is interesting. After casting Vampiric Touch, your next Vampiric Touch is instant. Deals a bunch of damage immediately. Can't happen more than once every 15 seconds. I'm confused why this is over here and not on the left side where all the Shadowy Apparition misery stuff is. Maybe it was and then they moved it because Harnessed Shadows is going to be so good for it or something. I don't know. Or maybe they don't want you to have like a huge insane misery build over here. I don't know. Okay, then we got Piercing Shadows. Your shadow spell casts increase your shadow damage by 0.5% for 25 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. And it's got 2 ranks. So it's either 2.5% or 5% at max. So that's, if you go to the 2 ranks, let's just do it real quick so I can make sure I'm not lying. We go down here to Piercing Shadows. Yeah, so it goes 0.5% at rank 1 or 1% at rank 2. Okay, that's what I figured. So that one's really interesting. I wonder if that means if your dot ticks count for that. I would guess not, because you're not casting anything when your dots are ticking. But when you're applying Vampiric Touches to a million things, those will count for that. And you would be constantly refreshing this buff, so you're just constantly doing 5% more shadow damage or something. Yeah, this is a really good spell to take, I think. Whispers of the Damned. Your Mind Blast and Mind Spike critical strikes generate an additional 3 insanity. I don't really care about that. That's kind of, yeah. Critical strikes, not something we're huge into right now. Not great. Although, what's the one? Yeah, this one. No, it's not this one. Wasn't there one up here that made your Mind Spike way, or your Mind Blast way more likely to crit? Yeah, it's just your Mind Spikes that make it way more likely to crit. Okay, so maybe... Ugh. Man, I hope I don't have to play Mind Spike and Mind Blast like crazy and just get all these horrible... Oh man, it's going to be so hard. Maddening Touch. Vampiric Touch has a 50% chance to generate 1 insanity each time it deals damage. Okay. And it goes up to rank 2, so I'm guessing it's just 2 insanity. Right, that's got to be the obvious answer. Yes. Oh, no. It doesn't go up to 2 insanity. It goes from 50% to 100%. That is crazy interesting. Okay. So if you've got a 100% chance to generate insanity each time it deals damage, you're going to be taking this for sure when you're playing your Misery, Harnessed Shadows, if that's a Shadowy Apparition thing, I don't know. Auspicious Spirits, Shadowy Apparitions build. When you're playing that, Psychic Link too, you're going to be playing that Maddening Touch too, and you're going to be generating more insanity the more targets you're fighting, which is cool. I really like that. And that's going to make Mindseer more viable, because I was wondering how you're going to be generating insanity if you don't have Mindseer, because that's like the only way we generate mass insanity right now. And it's going to be through your Vampiric Touches getting insanity every time they deal damage on a huge pack. Interesting. And then we've got Mindbender, which is just the regular Mindbender, and Idol of Usarge, which is the one that we looked at before. Shadow Fiend causes you to gain a benefit based on your target's current emotional state. These ones are... This is a really weird one. I don't know about Idol of Usarge, or Mindbender. Ah, man. I don't love that... Yeah. Yeah, I guess... Okay, I guess never mind. If you take Mindbender and Shadowflame Prism down here, then it makes sense that you're going to want to be casting Mind Blasts to generate apparitions for your big apparition build. Okay. I was going to say, it's so weird that they have these down here, but it's not weird at all. It makes sense. Okay, then we've got Pain of Death. Increases the damage dealt by Shadow Word Death by 25%. It also deals... Whoa! Whoa, this is so interesting. This is Psychic Link 2.0. Shadow Word Death deals 20% of its damage to all targets affected by your Shadow Word Pain within 40 yards. Dude, imagine you have a giant Shadow Word Death that crits right after you press Dark Void on a pack of 550 enemies. So you got Shadow Word Pain on 550 things. You hit a massive Shadow Word Death crit, and it doesn't kill the guy, so it hits you. And then you get another one, and it deals 20% of that damage. Wait, is that right? 20%? It deals 20% of that damage both times to all 550 enemies. This could be really crazy. Very interesting. Very similar to the Psychic Link one, except Shadow Word Death can hit freaking hard, dude. Like, it's by far our strongest single target one boom hit that we can do. It's like our biggest nuke that we can do currently, aside from like mind games. Then we got Mind Flay Insanity. Casting Devouring Plague transforms your Mind Flay spell into a Mind Flay Insanity for 5 seconds. Mind Flay Insanity deals 80% more damage than Mind Flay, so this is a single target spell for sure. So you take Pain of Death in Mythic Plus probably, Mind Flay Insanity in Raid, or in single target bosses at least. Derangement increases the initial damage of Devouring Plague by 75%, and Mindseer deals damage 20% faster, which, as a caveat, Mindseer dealing damage faster means that it also takes more insanity. Not more, but more per second, because you're going to run through your cast faster. So that is an interesting thing to keep in mind. You're constantly in this battle of how much insanity can I generate per second, and how much can I effectively spend per second. And if you can get a really good balance of that, your DPS will be really, really high. Because basically for all Shadow Priests, more insanity spent per second equals more damage per second. So if you can generate a lot of insanity every second and spend a lot every second, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage. And this is going to make you spend more insanity faster, so you'll be dealing more damage per second. The question is, can you keep up with your insanity generation? Which will be interesting. And it increases the initial damage of your Devouring Plague by 75%, which is not huge, but it makes it stronger than like a baseline Shadow Word Death in non-execute. Right? Yeah, 75% of 600 is what, like 450? 450 on top of that is 1,400 or 1,056, and this is 1,052, so it's almost exactly the same. Interesting. Okay, then we've got Void Eruption, which is not baseline for Shadow. Releases an explosive blast of pure void energy, getting you into void form, blah, blah, blah. Replaces Void Bolt. Did anything change? No. So, interesting. You can have Dark Ascension and Void Eruption, so you can have two 2-minute cooldowns. Let's make sure that's true. Let's click on some stuff. You at least have enough points to do that, but if you can actually do that, we shall see. It looks like we need to spend one more point. Yes, you can. You can for sure have both. At least in this build. Of the beta, I mean. Okay, so then Void Form. So you can have Void Form and Dark Ascension, which could be very interesting for single target. We might be like a way strong 2-minute class now. Then we've got Ancient Madness, which increases your critical strike chance by 15%. Void Form increases your critical strike chance. This should say Void Eruption increases your critical strike chance by 15% for 15 seconds, reducing by 1% every second. It's just like Ancient Madness on live right now. Mind Devourer. Your Mind Blast has an 8% chance to make your next Devouring Plague cost no insanity. Insidious Ire, while you have Shadow Word Pain, Devouring Plague, and Vampiric Touch active on the same target, your Mind Blast deals 20% more damage. This could work with a Psychic Link build with all your apparitions, maybe. That's kind of far out here. Mastermind increases the critical strike chance of, there it is, Mind Spike, I hate that spell, and Mind Blast by 3%, increases their critical strike damage bonus by 15%. Increases their critical strike damage bonus by 15%. So I'm guessing, so if you have a spell that does 1,000 damage, and it crits, it'll do 2,000 damage. I'm guessing let's use 100. 100 damage, and if it crits, it'll do 200 damage. What this is saying is that if your Mind Blast crits and it does 100 damage baseline, then instead of doing 200 damage when it crits, it'll do 215%? or will it do 230% or 230 damage? Because 15% of the baseline 100 damage would be 15 damage. And so if you multiply all of that by 2, it puts you at 230. So it's saying that when you crit, you'll do more than 100% more. You'll do 115% more, which would put you at 230 is what I'm getting at. Painbreaker's Psalm. Shadow Word Death consumes 4 seconds of Shadow Word Pain of Vampiric Touch, instantly dealing that damage to the target and generating up to 10 insanity. Again, this is the same problem as Mind Spike. I don't like spells that get rid of your dots when our mastery is all about having your dots up. Then we've got Monomania. While channeling Mind Flayer or Mind Seer, the tick rate of your Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on your current target, is increased by 25%, and their crit chance is increased by 3%. This is sweet, aside from the fact that you have to be channeling to get it. This would be a nice passive for when you have nothing else to cast. When you've got some downtime in your AoE rotation, and you're like, I just have to use a filler Mind Flay or a filler Mind Seer, this would be nice to have because it's going to make your other stuff tick more, which has implications on other things. Fiending Dark. Your Mind Flay and Mind Spike, again, critical strikes reduce the cooldown of Shadow Fiend by 3 seconds or Mindbender by 1 second. So it's the same ratio because Shadow Fiend is a 3-minute cooldown, right? Where is Shadow Fiend? Is Shadow Fiend over here? Yes. Shadow Fiend, yeah, it's a 3-minute cooldown. Okay, so it's 3 minutes compared to Mindbender's 1 minute, so it's 3 seconds compared to Mindbender's 1 second. Again, probably something that's like, yeah, why not? If you have the, oops, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. I want to start getting more over here, so I can try and get this one. We've got no points available, so let's get rid of that. Boom. Yeah, so it goes from 1 second to 2 seconds. That's interesting. So it doubles how much it reduces. Okay, so you could potentially get a lot more Mindbenders. If you get a ton, if you play like really heavy crit and you get a ton of crits, you could have Mindbenders like way more frequently. Then we've got Shadowflame Prism. Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death cause Shadowflame Rifts that explode like the legendary. Okay. Then we've got Idol of Cthun. Mind Flay and Mind Seer have a chance to spawn the Void Tendril or Void Lasher. Idol of Yogg Saron. After conjuring 50 shadowy apparitions, you summon a thing from beyond that serves you for 20 seconds. That's interesting. I'd like to test this one. It blasts enemies for 310 shadow damage. And you're going to be spawning that many shadowy apparitions for sure in Mythic Plus. So it'll just be like a random, oh, here you go, a little extra damage. I don't like that it's RNG, but it's only kind of RNG. Yeah, it's RNG for sure. Then we've got Idol of Nizoth. Damage dealt by Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague has a 20% chance to apply Echoing Void. Each time it's applied, it has a chance to collapse, dealing 62 shadow damage to all nearby enemies until no stacks remain. I'd like to see how high this can stack. If it's like the old Echoing Void, which was the... Echoing Void used to be Corruption in BFA, right? And I think that could only stack... Could that stack 50 times? Or is that way too high? This damage, 62 damage, is like nothing, so I'm guessing it can stack really high. Because if this stacked 10 times, it'd be 620 damage. Interesting. Oh, yeah, I wonder how high this can stack, because that'll change stuff a lot. And I wonder what the chance is for it to collapse every time it's applied. Then we got Lunacy. Reduces the insanity cost of Devouring Plague by 10, which will throw a lot of stuff off. Reduces the insanity drained when Mind Seer deals damage by 5. So this is interesting because if you take Mind Seer and you take Lunacy, then you're down to 20, and 20 is how much this generates. So Dark Void would generate enough for you to use one Mind Seer every time. If you've got Lunacy and Dark Void, then you can press Dark Void, instantly Mind Seer from 0 insanity. But if you don't have Lunacy, then when you press Dark Void, you're going to be 5 insanity short on pressing Mind Seer. So that's an interesting interaction to keep in mind for sure. What does Shadow Crash give? Where is Shadow Crash? There it is. 15. So either way, you can't do it with Shadow Crash. You're going to need 2 Shadow Crashes either way. So I imagine you won't play Lunacy unless... Ooh, yeah. Unless... Because you're going to need 2 Shadow Crashes whether you've got Lunacy or not. So if you have Lunacy, you're wasting it if you're not playing Dark Void or it's not giving you as much value. If you're playing Dark Void and you play Lunacy, it's huge because you can Mind Seer. But if you're playing Shadow Crash and you want to Mind Seer, you need to do 2 of them, whether you have Lunacy or not. And the same is true for getting a Devouring Plague. A Devouring Plague takes 50 Insanity. No, the same is not true for Devouring Plague. It takes 50 Insanity. If you have Lunacy, drops it down to 40, which means you could do 3 Shadow Crashes and have enough for a Devouring Plague. Whereas if you don't have Lunacy, it's 50 and it would take 4 Shadow Crashes. So that's pretty interesting. And the same is true for Dark Void. 2 Dark Voids versus 3 Dark Voids. Okay, so that's maybe a little too mathy and not worth talking about, but now you know. Okay, next we've got Hungering Void, which is just how it is on live, it looks like. Void Bolt causes the target to become vulnerable to the Void, increasing their damage taken from you by 10% for 12 seconds. It may only be active on 1 target at a time. Casting Void Bolt on an enemy that is already vulnerable extends the duration of your Void form by 2 seconds. Okay. Or 4 seconds if it critically strikes. Okay. And the classic Surrender to Madness. Another 2-minute cooldown, activates Void form. So I wonder if you can get Surrender to Madness without... No, you can't. You have to take Void Eruption to get Surrender to Madness. Okay. For the next 30 seconds, your insanity generating abilities generate 100% more insanity, and you can cast while moving. If it target does not die within 30 seconds, you die. I think this is a good place to plug this. I had this idea a long time ago. I think if you changed Surrender to Madness from killing you instantly to maybe doing 50% of your max health and damage, maybe it does 50% of your current health and damage. You can even make it a really crazy number, 90% of your current health. The fact that Surrender to Madness kills you if you don't kill the thing is just makes it so it's almost never worth taking. However, if you made it so that you could barely survive, like even if it was a 99% thing and you could barely survive, Surrender to Madness would be infinitely better than it is currently. I figure if there's any Blizz devs watching my videos, I know there probably aren't, but if there are, that's my feedback for Surrender to Madness. If there was one thing for you to get from this video, please change Surrender to Madness so that it does not kill you, because it's just never worth taking. Pretty much never, and I mean like never. I've played it like maybe 3 times in all of Shadowlands just to test it out. Okay, that's a dead talent. Okay, so that's all of the Shadow Tree. There's some really interesting implications here. I can't wait to test stuff out. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to find people to do some dungeons with here on the beta. If you're interested, if you're a beta player and you want to do some dungeons with me, leave a comment or join my Discord and let me know. I'd love to play with you. And if you've got any other comments, questions, or concerns or anything, leave them in the comments down below. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you really liked it. Maybe share it with your friends. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!